University of Arizona, and now he's your offensive line coach for Bruce Arians in Tampa. Pretty good career.
Yeah,
I'd say,
so.
right? And it's funny to say, but, Coach, your job is to protect Tom Brady.
And if he gets touched, it is on you.
Pags is giving me the thumbs up, so let's see if we can get Coach on the line now. Hey, Coach, how are you?
Good, Rocky. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Listen, I appreciate you taking the time this morning.
Not a problem. Glad to do it.
So, Coach, I was given a little quick bio of you from a guy from Horseheads, New York, who's an All-American at Hamilton College, all the way to the NFL. Talk to us about that journey.
It's been a long haul, I'll say that much. But I ended up going to Hamilton, and it was either Hamilton or Hobart, and it's kind of funny how things worked out. Went up there, loved the school and the people. Ended up meeting your uncle, Coach 80, and played for Coach Stetz and Steve Frank, and then Mike Davis was my line coach, who made a huge difference in me and what I wanted to do. And while I was at Hamilton, I said, hey, if I can't continue to play, I wanted to get into coaching, and my goal was to always coach the O-line in the NFL. And obviously graduated my senior year, wasn't good enough to make it to the NFL, and said I wanted to get into coaching. And, I think it's 12 or 13 stops, and 35 years later got here and, had a chance to obviously win a Super Bowl, which was just an unbelievable experience.
And, Coach, I know you got your coach in one of your stops is at Albany for the legend Bob Ford, and a lot of coaches, it seems like a lot of successful coaches, that's one of the popular stopping grounds. And what was it like to coach with Coach Ford?
It was funny. I remember Coach Ford when I started getting into wanting to coach. I talked with Steve Frank, who was the head coach at Hamilton at the time, and he was good friends with Coach Ford. And Coach Ford was coming out toward this way, and we were going to Syracuse for a clinic or something. And I ended up driving him and Coach Frank, and had a chance to introduce myself basically to Coach Ford, and went on later to interview with him. And, I look back at the things that he taught me, and at the time you don't quite grasp some of the things that you're learning as you go through your process, as a young coach or even as a young professional. And I think the one thing I look back and realize what he taught me, just some simple things of, time management, getting along with people, being prepared, simple things that, really going into that job, I had really no clue, my first coaching job. And to this day, he reached out to me during the season. We talked a couple times. We had a mutual friend of ours, talk with him, and I told them to say, hey, tell Coach, I said hello, and I went back for his retirement party, and just a great mentor for me to start in the profession. And, you look at the guys that he put there, Davey Campos, Tony Wise, a couple guys that, coached with the Dallas Cowboys and won Super Bowls as well. And, we all started with Coach Ford, and there's a lot of other great coaches and guys that are still in the profession, that worked with him or for him. And, Ed Zaloom, was a head coach at WPI, and Ed was the first guy that I worked under as an O-line coach. And, Ed's retired now, and I spoke to him the other day, So it's just kind of unbelievable experience here starting back 35-plus years ago.
And, Coach, making it in coaching is such a tough field nowadays, and to see some of the stops that you've been at and the journey you've been on all the way to the NFL. Was there ever a point in your career where you sat back and said, you know what, maybe this isn't what I should be doing, or was it always coaching, and you were going to find a way to get through it to get to the NFL?
Great question, Rocky. I'll be honest with you. There's times when you go through getting fired, and it's it's one of the things Coach Ford said to us as young coaches coming in when we interviewed. He said, if you stay in this business long enough, he goes, 3 things will happen to you. 1, you'll win them all. 2, you'll lose them all. And 3, you'll probably get fired at least once. And I've lost them all. I've won all. Came close to winning them all. I won the big one, but we came close to winning them all. At Toledo one year, we were 10-1, and then I've been fired. And when it's like anything. Early on in your career, when you get fired for the first time, you don't realize in the profession that's it's going to happen. And people don't look down on it. You know, some people in the other professions may say, oh my God, you got fired. In this job, you know, it's the saying, you get hired to get fired. And, you know, when it happens to you as a young coach, you're like, man, I'm not good enough. You go through all these things in your head. And you start questioning just what you said. You know, do I need to move on to something else? Do I need to move on to something that has more stability, you know, for my family? But in some way, somehow, I've always been able to find a job, knock on wood, I've never been out of work. And, you know, I go back and say, you know, some simple things, you know, if you're a good person, you know, you get along with people, you do your job, you work hard, you know, you'll land on your feet. And I've been very, very fortunate that that's happened.
And, Coach, you come from I should say a coaching tree. Your brother Nick was a high school coach, and your brother George, who I did not know, won a championship in the USFL. So how special is that to be able to share some of those successes with your brothers?
It's really, really cool. My brother George was, you know, a high school coach at Horseheads High School for 25 years, I think, where we went to school. And like you said, my brother Nick, who was a high school coach, it's been great because they understand the game, they get it. They understand the sacrifices that I've had to make, you know, moving around the country with my family. You know, like my wife and kids have made unbelievable sacrifice as well, and that's part of the gig. You know, any coach will tell you that, you know, it's you don't do it alone. You know, and it's hard, and you just got to have some great support, and you know, not only your immediate family, your wife and kids, but then your siblings, and having two of my brothers that are coaches just make it a heck of a lot easier.
And we're talking to Tampa Bay offensive line coach Joe Gilbert. And Coach, you know, your job's not too stressful, right? Your job is to protect the greatest quarterback of all time. Just another day, right?
Yeah, just another day. And you know, a guy that's probably the greatest competitor I've ever been around. You know, but you know, as a coach, as a competitor, you know, that's what you want. You know, I don't know if that's what you strive for, you know, and I think you go through your career saying, what else would you want, you know, to protect the greatest guy that's ever played the game. And when you're around him and you see his preparation and what he goes through to get ready for a game each week is just remarkable. And it's just been unbelievable to kind of to be around it and see it, to work with him has been really, really special. And I think the players see that, you know, and everybody, the entire organization, everybody's level of commitment, the whole thing completely changed, in my opinion, a little bit when he came in and just gave everybody, hey, listen, we can do this type thing, you know. And he doesn't talk much. You know, Tom's is kind of a really quiet guy and likes to have fun and all that. But when it comes to work time, it's work time, you know, and that appeared, everybody got that feeling pretty quick.
Coach, I was real tough on Bruce Arians midway through the season. I said, you know, I don't think, you know, maybe this isn't the right fit for him. He's got the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. He's got a lot of talent. And then all of a sudden something changed. And I said, you know what, Bruce Arians and that entire offensive staff did a fantastic job. Did something change during the year, or what did the non-preseason, you know, with Brady coming over, not having the time to work with the players in the preseason, did that hurt you guys to start the year?
Yeah, I think, and not to criticize what you said, Rocky, but I think that people missed the boat that said, hey, you know, this isn't the right fit. You know, you have all these pieces to the puzzle, and if you're in this business long enough, you just don't throw people into a pot and think you're going to get, you know, chicken soup.
Right.
It takes some time to put everything together. And without having preseason, you know, it went back to how important, you know, teams like the Saints, who had a team that basically came back intact, the Kansas City Chiefs, who came back intact, you know, how important that was through COVID when we had no off-season.
Sure.
They retained most of their free agents. You know, here we bring in a quarterback that has, you know, been in the same system for 20 years, and all of a sudden, you know, you're trying to, you know, piece it all together. You know, what's he comfortable with learning the new system? How do we adjust ours to kind of fit with how he sees things? All those things. And it takes time. It just, and those are the reps, those are the relationships when you got a chance to sit down and talk to people and say, how do you see things? You don't have the time to do that. We got thrown into camp, and it was on the fly.
Right.
And so it did take us some time to get that stuff all together. And when we finally did, we had that rough patch in the middle of the season, as you alluded to, and probably that's when everybody started criticizing, well, Bruce kind of, I guess, said some stuff, or with Tom and that. But the one thing people don't see behind the scenes stuff, that relationship was never strained at all. They were just trying to find a way to get the whole thing. And Byron Leftwich, in my opinion, did a phenomenal job with Tom, really working with him, and Byron, working things out where they got onto the same page late in the season. We got on that right after our bye week. We got on a run, and then, really that's when we started improving as a football team. And, I think Tom said it in an interview the other night or whatever, I really think when we hit the Super Bowl, we were still going up. We hadn't really even hit our peak yet. And we just kind of started getting into a groove, which was great.
Yeah, and Coach, you guys, you finished the regular season, I think, winning 4 straight, and then, the playoffs, you guys just had to go beat Drew Brees, you had to go beat Aaron Rodgers, you had to beat, I think a Washington team that, their front seven was as good as anybody's, and then, to get to the Super Bowl, I'm not sure many people, I picked you guys, but I don't think many people gave you guys a shot to beat Patrick Mahomes.
No, I don't think they did either, and, it was amazing because after that Washington game, I really think everybody started saying, man, this is, every day in the practice field, it's pretty cool because our facility is kind of across the street from where Raymond James Stadium is. And as the process for them to get the Super Bowl ready, you could see all the signs going up. And the one side of the stadium where our practice fields are that we could look over every day and see was a massive, big poster type thing they put on the side of the stadium of the Super Bowl trophy, and it was amazing when you're out there practicing every single time at the end of practice, say, hey guys, in 3 weeks, turn around, we could be in there, in 2 weeks we could be in there, in 1 week, we got one more to get, we could be in there, and it happened, and then, through the 2 weeks of preparation for the Super Bowl, you kept winning. Now we got a chance to win that thing, so it was pretty cool. And, I honestly believe our players went in there as confident, not cocky, but confident, to go in there and win it, and we did.
And Coach, talk to us if you can for a few minutes, just on the the celebration at the end when the clock struck 0, and offensively and defensively, great game plans on both sides of the ball from Tampa. What did it feel like at the end to celebrate?
Oh, it was awesome. I mean, when I worked for Chuck Pagano at the Colts, Chuck always talked about when he had cancer, there were certain things he wanted to do. One, wanted to, dance at his daughter's wedding, and 2, he wanted to dance under the confetti, winning a Super Bowl. And unfortunately, we didn't get that done for him at the Colts. But to do that, and the confetti's coming down on you, Bruce and Tom are up on stage holding up the Lombardi. You're on the field with your wife. It just kind of all comes together where you sit there and say, man, all the hard work, all the time away, the sacrifice your families do, it just was kind of, it's like a huge, reward for everybody, and I think that was the one thing that with the celebration parade, that the boat parade that they had in Tampa here, on Wednesday of that week, we were able to have our families on the boat with us, and just to look and see my 4 kids and my wife enjoying that day with other families, players' families and wives, and looking out and seeing all the people cheering for us and that, it was a reward for them that I know they'll never forget.
Coach, were you worried that Brady was going to throw you the trophy in the water? Would you have caught it?
I was not near his boat. He wasn't going to throw that to any old lineman. I just it was just seeing it on the news. It was funny because we were kind of all spread out along the river where we were going on the boat parade. So we really had no idea that even happened until, you know, the next day or that night you're watching the news and you're like, oh, my God, you know. But that was funny. Coach,
from Horseheads to college, then, you know, Hamilton College to Division I coach, Super Bowl champ, Super Bowl, you know, and that confetti came down. Did you ever look up and say, boy, did you ever think you'd get there?
No, I don't think you ever think will you get there. I think that, you know, the one thing I've kind of learned, I've enjoyed the process of moving along. And, you know, you just do your job. And then when you get on a run, and whether it was in college, when you have a great season, you just sit there and, you know, hey, maybe we can get to a bowl game, or, you know, hey, now all of a sudden, you know, we can get to the playoffs in the NFL. And then you get on a run and you're saying, this, you know, we may even have a chance to get into the Super Bowl. And I don't think you ever sit back and say that, but I have come to enjoy the process and the journey a little bit. And I look back and I mean, there's so many people that I could thank along the way so far that have really influenced me, have given me great advice, great friends in this profession. And I'm sure, like you talk to your uncle all the time, I mean, it's a great profession. It really is. You meet some unbelievable people, great players, guys I see. You know, I've been in Nantucket on the beach, and all of a sudden I look up and there's a guy that I coached at University of Pennsylvania on my second job, you know, and that's over 30 years ago, and he remembers you. You know, it's just stuff like that, you know. I ran into Coach Gallup, one of the guys I worked for at Northeastern University, you know, on the beach last summer in Nantucket. I turn over, I'm like, oh, my God, that's Coach Gallup and his wife, Vicky. Went over and talked to them, you know. And so it's just a really great situation. I've been blessed. I've been around some great people, and I've, you know, knock on wood, I've still got some years left in me to keep going and see what else happens.
Well, Coach, listen, it's an honor to have you on. I really appreciate you taking the time with me. If you ever come back this way, I'd love to get a chance to meet you in person, but I can't thank you enough for the time.
Oh, Rocky, I enjoyed it. I love that area. You know, obviously, I've got fond memories of being there at Hamilton and recruiting upstate New York for, God, I don't know how many years I had it when I was in college and going back through there and just the coaches. And I've got a great love for that state. I've got a great love for that area, and I'm just glad you reached out and gave me an opportunity to have a few minutes here with you to talk about it.
Well, we appreciate it, Coach. Good luck in the off season. Look forward to next season.
Thanks, Rocky. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Coach. You too.
Tell your uncle I said hello.
I will, for sure.
Okay. All right, bye-bye.
My Uncle Paul actually said he was probably the best lineman to come out of there. He said he was an absolute stud, you know, at Hamilton College. And, you know, a couple things with that interview. And, again, the coaching profession is so tough. It's tough in basketball, too, right, to make it to, you know, the big time. And here's a guy from Horseheads, New York, who we played my junior